Hi, I'm Liz Feld. I'm the CEO of Radical Hope, and I'm coached to win.
Go get me some knowledge.
I was going over all your stuff again. I was like, wow, I really got to talk to our AD about this and see if there's a way we can incorporate this into the program, just to at least try it and see what they think. Cause it's free.
It's fully funded. And one of these days, like in the next 24 hours, the little film we're doing should be done. And it's got, Dan Lanning in it and John Harbaugh and also regular students at Maryland and Arizona, not necessarily student athletes, but just talking in their words about why the program works, and a bunch of football players from the teams, and just practical stuff. I mean, we're not, like I've said, we're not curing cancer, but it's really important stuff.
The program we're talking about is called Radical Hope, and you are the CEO of Radical Hope. So before we even get started into the nitty gritty of Radical Hope, how did it start and how did you come on board?
Radical Hope started officially in 2018 by a family that I've known for a very long time. The Pam and Phil Martin have a large extended family, and they lost their son to suicide while he was a junior in college at Gonzaga University in the fall of 2017. So the family reached out to me in the spring of 2018, just because I had done a lot of work in the health advocacy space, and said that they had started a foundation, but they weren't really sure what direction they wanted to go in. And so they were just hoping maybe they could get some insights into what I had seen along the way. And that's how I actually never intended to come on full time. And they really didn't know what they were going to do. But the inspiration for Radical Hope was the suicide of this young adult. And the parents had access to all the best resources. The kid, he's certainly gotten plenty of help, to the outside world. He looked like he had, lots of friends, girlfriend, great college, but he really struggled with a lot of the basic life skills that so many of these young adults struggle with. So the family wanted to do something that could benefit young adults right now. They were really committed to not going down the rabbit hole of long-term research and, policy advocacy state by state to change laws. I mean, really what they wanted to do was have some impact right now, because they knew that their son, Chris, even though his outcome was as tragic as they can be, that there were a lot of kids who experienced the same kinds of challenges he did, and they weren't getting the kind of connection and help that they needed.
Is that what Radical Hope does? Do they go around to universities, talk to young athletes, young adults, and try to educate them on what's going on in their life, how to deal with certain circumstances, give them the tools, the necessary tools to deal with them? Is that what Radical Hope does?
Yeah, what we did, initially we really weren't sure what we were going to do. First, we did a landscape survey. What's out there that's working? Maybe we'll fund it and scale it. And didn't see that there was any real structured program that was helping these young adults right now. So we built one. NYU was our pilot partner. We went and talked to behavioral health specialists and academic leaders, and most importantly, hundreds of college kids, and said, hey, look, we know a lot of you guys are struggling. If we were going to build a program, what would it look like? What are your stressors? What's giving you all this anxiety? What's going on with your generation? And if there were a program, what elements needed to be in it in order for you to actually get something out of it? What is there even a demand for a program, right? And not just, skills and tools that we throw up on a website. And what we've learned, interestingly, didn't matter where these kids were living, Palo Alto, California, or, Houston, Texas, a lot of their stressors are the same. And they all said that that they really wanted and needed a program to help strengthen connections, build meaningful relationships, get some fundamental skills to help them with their day-to-day stuff, and that they wanted to do it in a peer-led setting, which ended up being the big kind of aha moment for us when we put the program together. It was like, well, what can we do here with peers that can actually penetrate and help this generation?
When you were first starting out, before you built everything, you were talking to all these different athletes, and you mentioned stressors. Like, what were some of the stressors that were stressing them out?
Time management, although athletes tend to be better at that than general population, because a lot of them have come, as you know, from a structured background where they've been scheduled and programmed. But certainly financial anxiety, big part of it. making friends and just knowing how to communicate. They feel so empty. There's been so much talk about this, but that they got a billion friends on their phone and very few meaningful connections. So they don't really know how to communicate either with their teammates, their coaches, their girlfriend, their roommates. I mean, knowing how to actually, and what comes with not being able to communicate is a lot of trouble regulating your emotions, right? Overreacting to situations, not understanding body language, basic, simple stuff, Christian, that I think we always took for granted that kids knew how to do because we grew up with that stuff.
And that's where I was going to go, because I'm like, is this a new thing? Are these new issues? Because I'm listening to everything that you're saying. Financial stress. Yeah. In college, I think I had $20 a week. And if I ran out of that, I was stealing stuff from our dining hall. That's kind of what I had. It's just survival of the fittest. Right? And I had really no issues making friends because the football players, most of them were my friends and they were my family. So that was easy. So I'm curious, is this a new thing that you found that is started with the social media craze?
Well, it's interesting. One of the schools we work with is Middlebury, with a great college up in Vermont. And when we first got started up there, I was talking to the chief medical officer, and he said to me, Liz, it all went downhill when kids stopped playing pickup basketball in the neighborhood. And it really was one of those metaphors for, that spontaneous, self-policing, make the rules of the road. You guys take care of each other. You keep each other clean. Now you're behind a screen, you're playing video games at home instead of playing pickup basketball. And it sounds kind of trite to say, but that's kind of a almost an analogy really or whatever, an image for what's really been going on. There is so much less interpersonal interaction. And then of course there was COVID. And that's actually when we built this program. So this isolation, social isolation that leads to emotional isolation. So yeah, and not a lot of resolution face to face when stuff comes up, right? It's, my Lyft driver isn't here. Screw him. I'm going to go to Uber now. Oh, my Dunkin' Donuts, Uber, DoorDash is late. A lot of this kind of transactional stuff that's all done online.
How do most coaches deal and react with these types of situations?
Well, it's been interesting. When we first started, we had no intention of working really closely with the coaches. We were trying to reach the students and in many cases, student athletes. And a couple things have happened. One is the athletic directors are really on top of this in a lot of cases. And they came and said to us, our coaches really could use some help. Now they need to, for their own mental health, because they're going through their own issues with NIL, transfer portal, kids on their phones, COVID. So for their own mental health, but also to really understand this generation of young people. And again, and this is not new, Christian, the power and influence that these coaches have over these young people. So it's challenging because a lot of these coaches are 60 years old. It's a generational issue. We know this as parents, like trying to understand what our teenagers are going through. So it's very different to see a coach who's 24 or 25 and a coach who's 65 or 70 and see how they're dealing with what's going on with these kids.
I always felt like the coaches need coaching, and
they do.
As long as they can understand what's going on now. And I guess the older coaches that you mentioned, I would even go to like the 50-ish, like 50, 55, 60. Those coaches like that are my age who are now leading these major programs and teams, they do need to kind of step back and go, it's just not the way it used to be. It's just not the way it used to be. And stop hoping that it does go back to the way it used to be, because it's not going back to the way it used to be.
No, it's not. Although one of the things that we really, believe in and stress in all the work we're doing is it doesn't really matter what's going on with technology or how fast the world's changing. The essential skills that you learn and I learn and your peers learn growing up, these basic life skills, they're never going away. They are timeless. Taking care of yourself, accountability, compassion, empathy, integrity. No AI is going to teach somebody that stuff. So we don't want to get rid of everything the way it was. I'm a big believer in a lot of this stuff that's worked since the beginning of time. So we got to find this balance and help the older folks understand that, yeah, they need to understand the young people, but there's stuff they should give up, and help the younger people understand just because there's stuff seems old, fangled to you. These principles matter. They've always mattered. The fundamentals have always mattered. And you're going to have a lot more confidence and you're going to believe in yourself and you're going to be better, whether it's on or off the field, if you do the basics. You can't shortcut this stuff. And so telling these kids they can is you're doing them a real disservice.
I want to read something that I saw on your website, Radical Hope. It says that Radical Hope is committed to improving the lives and futures of young adults by strengthening connections and building resilience. The resilience part is something I want to talk to you about. Why resilience?
Because we can't promise any of these kids any more than it was promised to us that they're not going to have problems. The world is, whether it's problems with a coach, problem with a professor, problem in a relationship, they got to learn how to handle it. Those problems could be setbacks, and they need the tools to deal with it. And resilience is, it doesn't mean something doesn't hurt. It just means that it's not a deal breaker for you. That you're equipped, whether it's with self-care tips, tools, stress management tools and techniques, or other things, you're equipped to actually go out and face these challenges. It builds confidence. So resilience it's just required probably more than anything else to get through life.
Usually sports metaphors deal with resilience, but it really is a life issue that you will have to go through forever, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So if you can learn it during sports, then you should be able to handle it even in your personal relationships and your job and your family and your kids. And I can only imagine, like, you feel resilience. I feel like there's an amount of resilience as a parent watching my kids fail, succeed, stumble, trip over themselves. When they get nervous, like I got to build my own resiliency, not to go try to save them, just let them figure it out.
That's a big part of what we work with, Christian, because, this helicopter parenting, right? This, people ask, why are things so bad? And we always say, it's not our place to judge, but hey, if you don't let your kids fail when they're younger and fail in little ways, then later on, these other things take on this really almost inflated significance. Like,
yeah.
Hey, you might not get into the college of your choice. Guess what? It's not the worst thing that's ever going to happen to you. You might not make the team. You might not, your girlfriend might dump you, whatever it is. Literally stepping back and going, let the kid handle it. Is the best thing in a lot of cases you can do. Because we talk to these kids in college, Christian, and they are so competent and capable in their majors, even on the playing field, but they feel really insecure in so many other parts of their lives because they haven't made these decisions for themselves. So their parents call the school if the kid doesn't like food and it's college. And you're going, no.
It's crazy. Like even like with high school kids, even with my youngest, if she has an issue with her teacher, we make her. This is my wife's idea. She's the strong one. I'm the big baby. She makes the kids write their teacher, ask them if they can fix it, what's going on. She forces them to engage with the teacher so they get those necessary skills where they're not insecure or nervous. Yeah. Speaking of my wife, there is one thing, there's a bunch of things on this website. It is fascinating. I got lost in just listening and reading everything. One of the things from Radical Hope, you mentioned radical health, right? And this is the one thing my wife says I lack. Can you guess what it is?
Well, you're healthy, so it can't be that.
I'll give it away. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence. That is what I lack. How to connect was the way you guys started it, and that's emotional intelligence. How does that play in to this young adult strengthening them mentally? First of all, what is emotional intelligence to you?
You know what? I'm so glad you asked about this because it's become such a big part of this whole program. It's really self-awareness and awareness of others. It's having a real
empathy.
Yes, and also having an understanding of how you're coming across to someone else, and so you have to understand who you are. First of all, who are you? What are your principles? What matters to you? What makes you tick? And then thinking, and then understanding, what power there is in your voice and in your language and what you say to people and how they're interpreting it. And then also sitting there and understanding other people, even just from where they're coming from. One of the activities we do in the first week is this active listening exercise, right? So your wife's going to love this. So it's 3 minutes. I talk to you, Christian, and I tell you whatever it is I want to tell you about. My day, something's gone wrong, something's gone right. And you don't say anything, you just listen, and we make eye contact the whole time. And then after 3 minutes, you repeat back to me, oh, Liz, this is what you said, and this is what I heard. And blah, blah, and that's what we do it. Well, it was stunning. It really, like the whole first year or so we did it, all the feedback. The first thing that these guys would say is, 3 minutes is a really long time to listen to somebody. It's like,
Without
what is
interrupting,
it?
right? With
Yeah,
no interrupting. So you got to let them finish.
finish and stop thinking about the answer or the comeback or like the eye roll or like the byline. So it's literally, it's so funny. And again, of course, kidding aside, and this is not just young adults, we're all guilty of this. 3 minutes without multitasking and doing so to actually have this meeting. But and this is where the self-awareness and again the awareness of others really comes in. It's like, look what actually you could get out of a conversation when you're fully dedicating your time and attention to it. And so really emotional, that's really emotional intelligence. A lot of this is reading a room. Just can you read a room? Do you get it when you walk in what the mood is? And right, instead of just being so self-involved, because this is the stuff that really hurts them down the road when they get their first job and they've been living in a vacuum, living really in a vacuum.
There's so many different layers to this. So let's go back to the beginning. How did you get involved with this? Because you mentioned this a couple of times as we were just talking, and you were the president of the Autism Speaks. You were president of the Suzanne Wright Foundation. Obviously, now you're the CEO of Radical Hope. You obviously are tailor made for this type of stuff. But how did these programs draw you in?
This one in particular, overall. Oh, I don't know. I just
Overall.
They're
all pretty much kind of based like, right, science and advocacy for the first two I mentioned, and this is a little advocacy and science for Radical Hope. Was this something that you were drawn to based on your own experience?
Well, I tell you, I was such a horrible science student, so it definitely wasn't from that. You know what it comes from, Christian? I like to do something about things that I think can be improved. I like to build stuff that, I see something in front of me. I think, why would I do something about this? I could sit back and we could all sit back and complain about it. And I like to, like I said, I like to bring people together who are the best at what they do and see if collectively we can drive, progress, change, improvements. And so that's probably the thread of all the things that I've done. This is particularly meaningful to me. First of all, I got 3 of my own grown kids. And so I just watch this generation and what goes on, and the family behind it was the most compelling part. Larry Bossidy, who's the chairman, was a long time, really an American national treasure, business guy, and just the commitment to do something right now and not sit around and do a vague awareness campaign. And that's important, like destigmatize mental health. It's like these kids they're not all dying by suicide, but a lot of them are struggling. And so okay, there's got to be more than what's out there, So
Yeah.
that was a real challenge to me. It was like, plus the gift. He said, if you don't find something, build something. Like, who says that?
Yeah.
And then I looked
Yeah.
around and found people like Aaron Taylor. I mean, there are so many, John Harbaugh and Linda Mills, the president of NYU. I mean, there are so many incredible people contributing in this space. And so the fun part was pulling everyone together, going, what can we do as a group here?
I do remember, like, when I got older, I remember seeking out a sports psychologist. Like, I was like really like deep in the weeds, and I just wish there was more of a, back then, more of a relaxed atmosphere, because it's acceptable now. There's lots of different opportunities, lots of options for just in stuff that you can't talk to your coach about, can't talk to your wife about, don't feel comfortable talking to your friends about it. And now that's just, I feel like that's everywhere you look, or at least it's easily attained.
Yeah, what's been the magic, and this comes from AA. We really modeled this program around AA. It's AA for mental health. The peer experience, the power of sitting in a group and having one person say, I'm really having a problem with this coach or my roommate or my parents, or I'm really homesick. It just takes everyone. It's like takes all the pressure on, and then you look around and go, so it's not just me, right? It's this whole thing. I'm not alone. Whether it's imposter syndrome or anxiety, and so that I think has helped a lot with your point about now making it more acceptable or possible to talk. There are more
Yeah.
avenues with your peers. Now, interestingly, it doesn't happen as much spontaneously, but if you have a group and it's like, and one person's leading it and it's actually someone pretty close to your age, it's a safe space. And this is really why it's working. When one person says, I got it, then everyone else chimes in, oh yeah, me too.
One of the things I saw that was interesting, your top 5 skills as ranked by students. Okay. Self-care. So are these things that the top 5 skills that they wish they had, or the top 5 skills that they're lacking?
It's the skills that we address in the program, and then we ask them to rate them based on how relevant they are to what they're going through in their lives.
Oh,
What
okay.
they
All right. So
need.
self-care is number 1. They think self-care is number 1.
Self-care, that and connection. Yeah. But self-care. Yep. Stress management.
Self-awareness, active
Mhm.
listening you talked about. How do you define self-talk?
Oh, that negative really we all have
Yeah.
going in our heads like I stink, I'm never going to be this, the other people are better, blah blah. There was a lot, we do
Your inner voice.
a whole week on that and basically shutting down all that negative talk and substituting affirmations like, I'm going to do this today and this is going to be a great day and I wouldn't talk to my best friend this way. Why am I being so mean to me?
Yeah, there's a great book. It's called Chatter. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's written by a guy by the name of Ethan Cross. I actually had him on the show right when I started. And his book is called Chatter. It's all about your inner voice. It's about how to handle it, how to shut it up, how to deal with it, how to take advantage of it, how to flip it on its head. It's a really fascinating book. It's really relevant to what we're talking about, especially with peer groups, social media, real life in-game situations, pressure moment at the free throw line, crazy situation on the goal line, right? It's a great, great book. And he's got lots of advice and lots of stories that relate to what we're talking about with this self-talk. That's why I was curious how
That's
you defined
great.
it.
I'm so glad you told me about it because honestly, we share this kind of stuff with you students all the time. Sometimes we buy a whole bunch of books and give them out to, so that I will definitely look it up.
Yeah.
It's just such a curse. I mean, we all suffer from it at different.
Oh God, yeah. That's why I think it's like one of the plagues. If I was going to create like a pyramid, the negative voice with in-game, outside of game, that to me, knowing what's real, what's not real. A lot of it I call imagination land. It's just if you're
Yeah,
worrying about something that isn't even real. So
yeah,
you just got to have to commit that it's not real, but it's hard. And that's why I love this book. We always talk about that stress meter in their head and the body language issues that occur because self-doubt creeps in and how
yeah.
to fight that. Yeah, I thought that was awesome. What's next for you guys?
We get asked all the time. First of all, it's quality scaling. We've grown. We've got 70 colleges and universities who've been our partners over the last couple of years. We're working with some NFL teams, some minor league baseball. So that's all great because we want to reach young adults who aren't necessarily in a 4-year college program. But we get asked a lot now to help during this transition between college into the workforce. One of our issues in the beginning, we started this program thinking that high school to college is a really tough transition time. So let's focus on that age group. And very quickly people said college to the work or leaving professional sports, retiring at age 28 and then going out into the world. What happens to you then? So that transition from the safety net of college or whatever. So we're looking at that. We get asked to talk to parents a lot now too, which is a big deal. But really what we want to do is take what we have built and just get it to more people. I mean, that is our goal because we have learned that it's working. And so the scaling piece, as you know, is always is the biggest challenge and opportunity. We've seen the kids, it's cool. The schools are taking ownership of it and that's what we wanted. Let them just become part of their culture. They shouldn't need us to come in and have it.
Yeah. The last thing I ask this to every guest that comes on my show, coach, player, doesn't author. I think I already know what your answer is going to be, but I'm going to try and get surprised. If you, Liz Feld, could gift one trait to young adults, young athletes, young boys and girls, if you could give them one trait, one characteristic that you think was the most important thing for them as they grow older and get a job and move on in the world and be successful, what would that one trait be?
Resilience.
Yeah.
I just think back to how many horrible mistakes I made and decisions I made in jobs and at the end of the day, why did I still keep getting up every day? I don't know. Some of that's you're born with, some of it's because of your circumstances and you become a survivor or or you always had confidence. But I do think it's the most important thing because there's so much wrapped up into that, including optimism. Like when you can come back from something, you never get hopeless.
That's what I was looking for right there.
So there
Yeah.
you go. Like
I've never heard it phrased that way.
and I haven't even ever articulated that way. So thank you for asking the question. I didn't, but that's really what it is. That's truly what it is. You don't ever give up hope if you're resilient, because you just know that's the worst thing that can. And I believe me, I've lost really important people in my life. I'm sure you have. We've all been through stuff, and here we are, right? So somehow we're doing it.
Go get me some knowledge.